Hello YouTube. I haven't filmed at all because Dad and I have been working on this 8130, lots of things, but I did want to show you this. What you can't see is it's rain. It's raining. Thank Lord. I don't know how much we've gotten or how much we'll get, but there's a pretty good sized cloud that's building. Could be some severe. We don't want that, but I mean, there's already water standing here in the field, so that's awesome. That's all I got for you. Good morning. We got a little bit of rain, not as much as I was thinking maybe we were going to get. I haven't checked rain gauges yet, but I will do that and I'll show you here in a little bit. But first thing this morning, I'm going to show you a new thing that I've made so that I can do some mapping of my field. So you've seen my Mule, but I added this. I built this bracket, and I buy that little bracket for this GPS receiver, and I bought the harness that allows me to connect from that receiver to the monitor. I made this bracket. It's not great. I wish I had a way to pivot it this way, but this works fine. And it ties into the battery back there. So I'm going to drive the perimeter of these new farms at least, maybe others if I need to, and map out some boundaries. You know, I know it won't be able to drive this, obviously. Well, maybe not obvious to you, but I've got nothing controlling the steering wheel of the Mule. This is just for creating data points along the perimeter to set boundaries, and I can use it to do track lines as well. At least that's what I've done it for this purpose at least. Instead of having to take my tractor out here and drive these, this is faster and I can get closer. You know, I can see where my edge of the field is, and so I will drive along the side of the boundary best I can, and it'll map, and I'll just be on here. I just don't like it. I was going to try to move it over here, but it'd be in my way. So anyways, this works. So I'm going to change it to this is called Jill's farm. This little one here, just around Jill's house over there, like 21 acres. So I'm mapping. I got my equipment set up. I have to set it up as a front 3-point attachment is what I figured out. Anyways, got all that measurement figured out at my house. And so if I go to mapping and boundaries, it's got a boundary that I drew on the op center, but I'm going to do it with this. It'll be more better. All right, let me go get in position and we'll start driving this thing. Okay, don't mind my weedy mess here. I just took it over. I disked it, and then I've been doing other stuff. So once I get the 8130 serviced, sprayer back on, I'm gonna come spray this. I think I'm gonna put cotton on this next year. So I wanna try to, I don't know, I may plow it again. I'm not sure yet, but I'm gonna try not to. Okay, so I'm going to press this record button. It's gonna say, you sure you wanna redefine the boundary? I'm going to, yes, accept that. So it is recording right now. I'm gonna drive, probably drive all this until I get to a point where I have to stop. Then I can press pause, get resituated, and it'll extrapolate that point as a straight line between those two deals. So otherwise, it's gonna follow what I drive. All right, I'll show you in a second. reason I plowed these farms so I could see my boundaries better. So this is a curved line. I'm just gonna keep moving on this one. Okay, so here I'm gonna stop somewhere like that. I'll pause this, and that'll allow me to get straight. Okay, that looks to be about where I want to be. And then I will resume, and that'll set a data point. And so the map is drawing. I don't know if you can tell what I've done, but it'll start, every time I create data points, it'll change the shape of this field. So, major boundary says I got 20.54 acres. You know, I think that will work. What I think I can do is, if I get this loaded into Op Center, I can use the boundaries now to create some track lines that I can, instead of having to measure them, it'll use the boundary as the track. I think that's what it'll do. That's what I'm going to try to do, is let Op Center create a line based off the boundary that I've made. It was doing that earlier when I was experimenting, so I think it'll work on this kind, unless it's only on boundaries I draw on Op Center. I don't know, we'll figure that out, but I think right now all I'm going to do is just do some boundaries. All right, I'm at the next farm. There's a farm here and then a farm up there. I was just over there somewhere. So it's same family, but siblings own that different sibling from the farm I just did to these two. What's interesting is, so this house, that's where my good friend Tully grew up. His mom, Jill. So if I say Jill's house, sometimes people think about this house, but she's moved to her parents' house now. So I'm gonna call that Jill's, and I'm gonna call this Tully's, even though Tully has nothing to do with this property anymore. It's his uncle's, but it makes sense to me. So I'm gonna call this Tully's, because this is where we hung out, played low hoop basketball on that. Must have been a different goal, because I think we probably destroyed it, but some low hoop and lots of good times there in that house. So this is gonna be Tully's, and then across the road, I didn't know what to call it, but I'm gonna call it Kent's, because that's the name of the owner that owns both of these. So Tully, in memorial of you, that's gonna be Jill's, Tully's, Kent's. Doesn't make sense, doesn't matter to you, but it helps me keep it all straight. So this one, I can drive this. I'm gonna drive all that. I got an easy boundary. I got a turn row up there I can follow. I got the house here. I got fences back there, but it's this east boundary that there's not hardly any property markers, and we share a turn row. I'm gonna share a turn row with this farmer. There's a marker way up there, but nothing down here at the road. So I'm just gonna have to eyeball that coming back, and hopefully I can come up with a good track line here from that boundary. We'll find out. I got those done. It's hot. It's hot out here. I'm gonna go back to the barn and keep working on that tractor now. Well, I stopped, and there's some rain. You can see there's some puddles here, but I stopped at another gauge I have just not far from here, and nothing. So, and that cloud, Dad and I were here, we're working, and it was, obviously it's loud in a metal building, so it was raining hard when we left. You saw the video, but it wasn't everywhere. Those clouds built kind of funny. Looked like they were building northeast, towards where I live and towards my parents' house, but then it stopped and moved west. So kind of interesting. Field view says Dad had a 1/2 inch, but his rain gauge is, he said, full of bees. So we don't know exactly what it did there. This, I think field view said here 1/2 inch or so as well. That's more like 3/10. I've got another app that said 3/10. So I mean, I guess 3/10 if it's coming down really hard and heavy. Looks like a lot at one time. It just wasn't sustained long enough, but 3/10 is better than no tenths. I'm still not going to show you all this because it's just hard to film while we're working, but getting this put back together, got this harmonic balancer put back on. That really wasn't, that was actually nice, wasn't too bad. Popped off. My stripper was we had a hard time and it finally popped and kind of dented the radiator. Although we've got some of our own dents, it's hard to get all this out without kind of scuffing this up. The water pump is back here. Got it out and in. That was the biggest chore because it was all rusted in there. So got it cleaned up, new water pump put in, thermostat housing, there's 2 thermostats, got those put and replaced. Hoses are back on but not tightened. We got to tighten all these clamps and such still. So this is the fan drive. There's the other piece here that's the grease. You got to pack grease in. We'll get it on, get the fan in, connect other things other hoses and things we've taken off, and then that shroud is kind of the tricky thing to get in there. That sucker there. So we're close. Dad's coming over. We're gonna get that other sheave cleaned up. Basically, this sheave kind of, maybe not on this one. On that one over there, that's the driver. It comes in. I don't believe we're doing anything to that one. I think it's all good, but that one's driven here driven right here, and then that turns this one, which turns the fan, which does what a fan does. So it's coming together. I told Dad it'd be a miracle if we can keep track of all the parts that we've got, because we've accumulated stuff everywhere. But that's part of what it takes to get this job done. All right, other thing I did yesterday was I showed you this camera, I believe. I got it mounted, and I got this wire routed and zip tied everywhere. And I decided against, so my buddy had one up there, a camera, and they came in through that grommet there, and he didn't like the angle of that. So it didn't really show me much. So online, I've seen that people pop the cab up and run it through this air conditioner vent and where the control arm comes in. So that's what I did yesterday. I got the wires ran. The wires, this is from the monitor here, and then this is coming up through, anyways, it just follows some other wires and it'll come up here somewhere. I got to figure that part out exactly. And I'm going to probably splice into these wires. This is for what I would call a cigarette lighter, accessory port, I guess is what they call it now. So that's where I'll tap in to get my power. And that should be only power when it's on. I had it plugged onto the battery, but that was power all the time, and that monitor would never turn off, and I'd drain my battery. So I may piddle with that a little bit until Dad gets here. Well, I may just stay in front of this fan for a little bit because it's hot.